with you here, Geoff Lemon as well. This is the final word for All That Cricket in conjunction with Kookaburra Cricket. At the end of the Chapel Hadley Trophy Series, 3 limited overs internationals, Australia swept the series 3-0, and we're ahead of the Pakistan Test Series starting on Thursday up at the Gabba, Geoff. But we're at the MCG right now. Shane Warne's behind us. We've got the great man standing with his statue there in front of the cricket ground, and that's where we'll be for the second Test match.
He looks in good shape, and we will be back here in just a little while. And they sealed the Chapel Hadley here as well. Well, you know, had the last match of it anyway. It was well sealed by that point. It was kind of half of a good one-day series in that all the first innings were pretty good, and then the second ones were kind of rubbish.
Yeah, let's just quickly go through that. So Steve Smith scored a big 100 in the first one at Sydney a couple of Sundays ago, making 164. Absolutely outstanding knock, the most amount of runs ever made in a one-day international on that ground. And it's the flexibility he's got at the crease. Those strokes he plays through his legs and behind square leg, starting basically out at the return crease by the time the ball's coming delivered to him there. He's a freak.
Yeah, I mean, it's the fact that he's just constantly on the move. He's the wandering albatross of the Australian crease, you know, off to one side, off to the other, and still has this incredible hand-eye that means he can pick up the ball and put it pretty much wherever he wants from any position.
It was essentially the pattern of the series, the first game. So Martin Guptill made 100 as well, a fine century, hit them bloody everywhere, hit six sixes, I should say, in that demolition job. Once they got him out, New Zealand faltered and they weren't really able to recover. So they ended up getting flogged in that first game. Off we went to Canberra, and Kane Williamson thought, you know what? Won the toss, I'll have a jam roll, I'll put you guys in. What's going on there, Geoff?
Yeah, look, I'm very confused about that. It's a batting wicket, and I mean, I don't necessarily subscribe to this thing that, you know, the captain should always bat first, especially in test matches. You know, if they bat first and then lose, no one says it's the fault of the wrong choice at the toss, but if they bowl first and lose, it's because they did the wrong thing. You know, it's kind of confirmation bias, but in that particular case, very high scoring ground. They made 300 and a billion, and I don't know, it just wasn't a good idea to give away that initiative.
378 to be precise, and it would have been the biggest ever chase on the ground had New Zealand been successful after David Warner clocked his 6th one-day 100 in this calendar year, ably supported by Travis Head with a half century, consecutive half centuries for the young man from South Australia. This was a far more explosive one than what came in Sydney, where he had to be a more accumulative himself. So we're seeing a new sort of Travis Head here at the moment, aren't we? A guy that can play 2 different gears.
Yeah, well, he's got a couple of different ways he can go at it, and he's also starting to come a lot better as a bowler as well. So he's making life difficult for Glenn Maxwell in terms of coming back into this team, because, you know, bowling handy spin and destructive batting sort of able to change things around in the middle order.
Yeah, we do have to talk about Glenn Maxwell. The politics of Glenn Maxwell's omission did cast a shadow somewhat over the early part of this series, left out in favour of Head, but this undercurrent of something not quite being right, Geoff.
Well, it just didn't strike me as being particularly straightforward. They said, oh, you know, him being left out has nothing to do with the fact that he'd just been disciplined and fined for, you know, a fairly ridiculous, trivial thing in the first place. You know, and then, oh, what a coincidence, he's not playing in the next game. But they also bungled it in that they didn't release him to go and play Shield cricket instead of hanging around carrying the drinks and doing sub-fielding in all of the ODI games. So they're happy to have him on the field. Yeah, come out and stop a few at mid-wicket, Maxie, while someone needs a piss. But, you know, apart from that, off you shoot.
Now, one man who did get an opportunity in this one-day series, who's been out of limited overs cricket, indeed international cricket for quite some time, was Patrick Cummins. Took 4 for 41 in Canberra, bowled beautifully there, and I think that the temptation to bring him back to long-form cricket is clearly there, but it was very encouraging seeing he can still bowl 150 plus.
Yeah, that temptation, I'm never sure how much it's actually based on reality or just this wonderful idea that, you know, he could be great because one time 6 years ago he was for a couple of hours here and there in the one test match he's ever managed to play. So, you know, I don't know, is he a dream, is he a myth? Will we ever see him as a real cricketer again in white clothes hurling the red ball around? Maybe, hope so, but not sure.
It was 116 run win at Canberra. They moved off to Melbourne here behind us at the mighty MCG, and they won that game just as convincingly. 1 run more, 117 runs the margin there. They were 2 for 11 at the start. They were 11 for 2 depending on where you went to school and where you're watching this video, with Finch and Smith getting removed early. But David Warner, a fine innings batter for the entirety of the 50 overs to 156, and that caps off what's been a phenomenal 50 over year for him, 700s in the year.
Yeah, what I liked was how surprised everyone looked when Smith got out, you know, made a duck, and people were going, that's not supposed to happen, and even he looked a bit confused. But Warner, it was a very different kind of 100 as well. Like, he went on, he went big, he was dismissed off the last ball of the innings, run out, just trying for that one extra run, went past 150, you know, really made it count rather than making a dashing 100 at the top. He batted through, and it was a difficult wicket, and it wasn't easy to time the ball, and he was the only player really all night on either side who looked well at home on that pitch. He'd read it, he'd figured out how to play it, and he wasn't trying to do too much. So 7 tons in a year for him, absolutely absurd. Only a couple of players have ever matched or bettered that, Ganguly and Tendulkar. So, not too bad at the one-day game, those guys.
A hell of a strike rate too, making, I think it was in 23 one-day internationals, giving you a sense of just how dominant David Warner's been. A couple of scores in the 90s as well. Travis Head was great as well with the bat, accompanying Warner for much of that innings when it got a bit rugged in the middle overs when they lost a clump of wickets. They bowled out New Zealand for 147, similar to the previous game. It was Guptill out, all out. They lost, I think, all their 10 wickets for about 70-odd runs. Mitchell Starc was sensational. Josh Hazlewood was in the wickets once again. Pat Cummins, James Faulkner. It was kind of the complete performance with the ball. And that caps off, again, it was a middling series, but it really did, Geoff, serve as a circuit breaker after a pretty rough start to the summer for Australia with the red ball.
Yeah, I mean, just a little pause, just a little sort of stroll outside on the balcony, a bit of fresh air. Everybody got to calm down a bit. They're all just a little bit jittery after some of those test matches. And then, oh, we're the worst in the world. Oh, we're the best in the world. Oh, we're somewhere in the world. We're in the middle. I don't know. We're like 5th or 6th maybe. No one knows. Who knows where the rankings are doing? They're going up and down like crazy elevators. So, I didn't mind having a little bit of time off for some 50-over stuff.
What we do know about the rankings is that the team that was ranked number 1 up until a couple of months ago, Pakistan, are here for a test series. It's the marquee series of the summer. They started with a tour game against CA11 up in Cairns over the weekend. Again, not the most compelling performance to start their tour. They were bundled out for 208 on the first day. But gee, it's not really about their batsmen at the moment, is it? It's about their fast bowlers.
Well, exactly. And it wasn't easy batting conditions up there, I don't think. They were playing pink ball stuff. It was night time. It was moving around. It was Cairns. We all know what Cairns wickets are like, don't we? Jeez. Everybody struggled with the bat, basically. But that fast bowling attack, Muhammad Amir coming out in the evening, taking 3 for 3 in a couple of overs, and ending up with 3 for 15 in the first innings. Well, he's just dangerous. He's got the skill and the polish, and then they've got the grunt from Wahab Riaz, and provided Yasir Shah comes good with the leg spin as well, just gives them a whole extra element in the bowling attack.
And they're going to be using one of these bad boys again. This is the pink Kookaburra, which we of course saw at the last Test match in Adelaide, and I stole from the press box. So thanks to Kookaburra for this piece of contra. And how obviously that's going to have an effect on this game. The first time we've seen a pink ball Test match in Brisbane. There'll be weather to consider. There'll be the time of day they're playing, a fraction earlier, so maybe that won't be as much of an influence on the game as we've speculated in the weeks leading up. And also the fact that these trio of left armers from Pakistan, it's their second pink ball Test, but that's going to be a mighty task for this inexperienced Australian batting lineup.
Yeah, well, particularly if they're batting sort of, that last hour of the day or so. As you said, it does pull back the evening hours, but nonetheless, we might get sort of rain in the evening. We might get some later sessions rained off. We really don't know how it's going to play, so it's going to be interesting to see what sort of pitch they dish up. Will there be a bit more grass on it, because the Gabba can be really nice for batting, as we've seen in a lot of tests over the years. If there's that bit of extra grass to preserve the ball, does that mean it gets extra nip off the seam? I hope so. I'd love to see some carnage.
The half a dozen Australian players from the Test 11 who went back to Shield cricket all performed serviceably. Noteworthy was Usman Khawaja, who just for laughs made 150, then 60 odd in the second dig, as he does. Nick Maddinson, encouragingly though, he made 80 and a duck in the second innings, but he made 80 for New South Wales in the first, and he's drawing from that. He obviously made a duck in his only performance for Australia so far in Test cricket. So Maddinson's the man who will have a lot of pressure coming into this Test match. And Peter Handscomb and Matt Renshaw both had modest returns, but after their first outings in Adelaide, you think that they're feeling pretty good about themselves?
Yeah, look, I think they wouldn't be too worried about a slightly modest Shield round in there. It's again going to be a different challenge, different conditions, different bowlers that none of them have ever seen the likes of before. So I think they'll be able to maintain a bit of composure going in with an unchanged squad and an unchanged 11. Just makes everybody feel a little bit better.
I feel better too, Geoff. This has been fun as always. For the final word for all that cricket, Kookaburra cricket, Adam Collins, Geoff Lemon. We'll see you in Brisbane.
I'm Peter Handscomb, and what I look for in a bat is a very nice pickup. Looking for a weight around 2.9 for the long format and around 2.10 for the shorter format, so I can try and muscle the ball over the fence a couple of times. This summer I'll be using the Kahuna bat. I like them because they've got a nice rounded face and also some really big edges, so when you time the ball it comes off sweetly.